I'll hand back over to Sandy, who's going to give a little bit on our purpose, values, vision, and the clients we support.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, as Tom says, I'm going to spend the next few minutes telling you a little bit more about our charity and our purpose, values, and vision. So, moving straight on to the next slide. Who are we? We are part of a network of charities, a community, providing free and confidential advice in person, on the telephone or online. People rely on us because we're independent and totally impartial. We use the words in that first paragraph here often. For example, you'll see it in our articles in the Portsmouth News and on our social media platforms. We feel these words explain us clearly, and we want to keep getting this message out there. Citizens Advice Portsmouth started operation on the 4th of September 1939, the day after World War II was declared, and was one of the initial 200 Citizens Advice locations set up in the UK. Throughout our history, we've continued our unwavering support to those in need in the city, right up to the present day, simply because we know you're relying on us. Thanks, Tom. Next slide. So what's our purpose? Our purpose is to provide free, confidential advice to help people overcome their problems and to campaign on big issues when their voices need to be heard. We're only a small organisation, but we have a massive and meaningful purpose, and we're really proud of this. We change people's lives for the better. We make a tangible difference to those who seek our help, and it's really fulfilling. Okay, next slide, Tom. Thank you. Our values. So our values are the essence of who we are and the drivers for how we behave individually and as a whole. We're purpose-driven, so we're driven by the very words that I just read out in the last slide. We are always focused on those who need our help. We're people-focused. We recognise, value and reward contributions and talents in an open, fair and meaningful way. We're collaborative. We build relationships across teams and locations to foster innovation and inclusive ways of working. And we're transparent. We're open and honest, sharing information early and often whenever we can. And next slide. Our goals. So our goals are to evolve what we do, engage our team and support our community. If nothing else, these last 14 months have clearly shown us that the community we serve has ever-changing needs. So it's important that we recognise and respond to these changes by constantly evolving what we deliver. In order to be successful at doing this, we must ensure we bring our amazing teams along with us. And most importantly, we want to support our community. We want the people of Portsmouth to feel comforted in the knowledge that they have access to an outstanding advice service, one that has the ability to support them with their issue. We want them to know that they will receive the level of support they require, and no matter how complex their issue is, we have the expertise to deal with it. Equality, diversity and inclusion is also of utmost importance to Citizens Advice, from trustee level down. We must be diverse in the way we deliver advice by varying the channel of delivery and adjusting the level of individual support we offer. We will keep improving our service so it meets the needs of everyone in Portsmouth's diverse community. In the last few years, we've been constantly improving and evolving in response to a rapidly changing landscape, which results in rapidly changing client needs. The last 12 months have been no different. But if I had to pick one change that excites me the most, it would have to be the significant development of our immigration advice service. In just a couple of years, we've evolved from having just a couple of volunteers who are trained to give solid low-level immigration advice to having a dedicated team of paid and volunteer advisors, some of whom are qualified to the highest level. This team are solidly supporting many refugees and asylum seekers in Portsmouth to make the most complex applications to the Home Office. This is making such a difference. We have also developed partnerships with organisations like City of Sanctuary, Red Cross and Friends Without Borders to enable us to support so many more people affected by immigration issues far more effectively. If we want our teams to remain engaged, we need to continue to focus on wellness and morale. So we recently undertook a team wellbeing survey to help us identify areas for improvement and hear the opinions and suggestions of our team. We listened to team feedback and have made significant improvements as a result. We've given our teams more opportunities to socialise at work. We've changed the way we communicate with our teams. We've improved our appraisal system and invested in training, as we want to make sure we are utilising the skills of our team in the most effective way. And we've worked hard to ensure that every member of our team knows exactly where they fit into the organisation and understands the importance of the role they play. Finally, if we want to continue to give the best support to our community, we must constantly collect and listen to customer feedback. It's essential that we consistently deliver a service of the highest quality. Our research and campaigns activity is becoming more critical by the day, and we have been heavily focusing on developing this part of our work in order to make it even more effective, both locally and nationally. We recently undertook some local research into client fulfilment of food vouchers at food banks, as we noticed that this was low and wanted to understand the reasons why. Part of this research involved a comparison of our Portsmouth data with our national network data to see if this was just an issue in Portsmouth or was widespread. Being part of a national network gives us the ability to do so much more for Portsmouth than if we were one isolated organisation, and we need to use this advantage to its best effect. We've worked hard at really understanding our community needs, which has already also involved a huge amount of research work. We are building more and more strategic partnerships with our other VCSE organisations, businesses and community groups, as we know there is so much strength to be had from working together and ensuring we're not duplicating, but complementing each other's services. I won't say next slide, Tom, because we're on the next one, but that's brilliant. Okay, so this just shows you a little bit more about what we do for the community. And I think the figures show you just how hard we've been working for our community. So the last financial year, we dealt with 28,603 client issues and handled an astonishing 4.1 million in individual client debts. You can see here how much of our advice had to be delivered via remote platforms. This was obviously due to the limitations of COVID-19 and the need for us to protect the safety of both our clients and our advisors. COVID-19 has meant that we have had to find many innovative ways to interact with our clients. For example, we've used visualizers to enable instant document sharing, facilitated video calling from clients in our office to advisors in their homes, operated flexible hours to meet more demand, and as a result, we've managed to advise all who approached us effectively. And despite all these challenges, we're proud to say that we've remained open for face-to-face appointments and drop-ins pretty much throughout the entire pandemic, so our most vulnerable residents could continue to access our service in the only way they would find manageable. And next slide, thanks, Tom. So figures are all well and good, but nothing really shows the difference we can make better than a real client story can. So let me tell you about a recent client's journey. We were approached recently for help by a 55-year-old woman who'd just lost her husband. She was tearful and incredibly anxious and was struggling to deal with such a huge loss. This poor woman had been with her husband at the time of his sudden death, which had happened in their home, and the experience had left her traumatised. On top of this poor lady had no food, no money, no gas and electric, and she could not top up her meters, and she had no bank account. Her husband had always dealt with the finances, as she could not read and write. She was aware she had to pay rent and bills and knew of a joint debt, but was unaware of any details of these. Someone had advised and assisted her with claiming bereavement allowance, and as she had no bank account, a friend had offered her the use of their bank account for receiving the bereavement allowance payments. This offer was gratefully accepted by this poor desperate lady. However, the allowance went into this account and then this friend was suddenly uncontactable. This lady was living in a private rented flat but was desperate to move due to the trauma experienced there. Unfortunately, she had unknowingly signed a 6-month tenancy agreement, and upon investigation, we found she was 5 months in arrears with her rent. We supported her in understanding her rights as a private tenant. So initially, we provided her with food bank vouchers and assisted her with getting top-up cards for her meters, and we then provided the client with fuel vouchers for her initial top-ups. We assisted her with a universal credit claim online, which would provide an income and pay her rent liability. We arranged for her rent to be paid directly to her landlord, who thankfully was really supportive and understanding. The client was supported with making a personal independence payment claim and freezing her bereavement allowance payments so her friend would have no further access to her money. And we applied for a council tax reduction on her behalf. Support was provided to her to make multiple visits to bank branches in Portsmouth, and she now has a basic bank account in her name for the first time in her life. And of course, we ensured she understood how to operate it. We then arranged for all benefit payments to go directly into her new accounts. We successfully applied for white goods using Portsmouth City Council's scheme, and the client received a new washing machine and fridge freezer. We referred her to our Home and Well service, who ensured she was registered on the relevant priority registers for her fuel and water. This would mean she would be treated as a priority if something was to go wrong again in the future with her gas, electric and water supply. We were able to do this as the lady was classed as vulnerable. We also referred her to our money advice service for future support with paying off a loan and negotiating rent arrears payments. And we supported her to get on the waiting list for a long-term council tenancy. With her agreement, we also made a couple of referrals to other agencies, the Learning Place for one-to-one support with reading and writing, and Positive Minds for help with bereavement and overall emotional well-being. Now, the total financial benefit for this client was a one-off financial benefit with the white goods and the fuel vouchers of around £750, but more importantly, an ongoing financial benefit of approximately £1,800 per month, which comprised of her universal credit, bereavement allowance, rent payments and council tax relief. This lady is still receiving our ongoing support, and the latest update is that she has now moved home. I think that really just tells you volumes about the importance of the work that we do. Okay, I'm going to pass back to Tom. Thank you.